Hey traders, this is Cousin Benny coming to you on April the 1st with some things I'm looking at this week, namely the S&P, the ES in this case, where we opened for the new week with a gap up. Okay, looking at this head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulders, and the break above this neckline here. Okay, depending on how you like to draw it, even if you draw it this direction, we've made it above both of these trend lines. Okay, being this is the low and this is a higher low, I typically like to run it in this fashion. So I'm also looking at the 1419 high, alright, and thinking we continue higher. Obviously stochastics is overbought, and that's the 1 hour chart. Looking at the daily, you can see where we are here. We came down to this 618 level here, hit the 618, bounced, came up, moved through the 100% level, this high here. Okay, so I'm taking these two pivots, and we tried to test the 127, but we quickly moved back. Came down to this area between the 786 and the 618, and this trend line that goes back to December. Okay, this second trend line below this upper tight trend line where we ran the 10 period moving average all the way up, came down and tested that. So we have those 2 points of reference here, okay, and here, and we came down very close and tested that area. Depending on where you draw your lines, we probably already tested that, and we're moving higher. Now we're moving, gapping higher on the open. We're above the 100% level again. If we hold overnight, there's a very good possibility we do come up and test the 127. If we see some momentum and a move continue, the 1618 is up here at 1451.78. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at on the ES. The S&P 500 cash is pretty much the same. However, if you look at the S&P monthly chart, you can see that the lower Bollinger Band is moving higher, which is in continuation with the upper Bollinger Band. Typically what this tells you is it's a grind up. Okay, instead of when Bollinger Bands expand in both directions, you get this kind of movement here. So you can expect continuation of same, okay, until we come down and break through this shorter term period moving average. We have a sandwich here between the upper Bollinger Band and the shorter term period moving average. We also have RSI moving higher. We have stochastics overbought, but note MACD has turned back up higher, okay, and we got a crossover on the ADX. The main thing I like to watch for is confirmation with the on-balance volume continuing to increase. Okay, so that's something that's very important for confirmation. With the Ichimoku version, we can see that Tenkan-sen is right at price. Okay, we can see our cloud continues to move higher, and Chiku has nothing to run into except higher. Okay, no resistance here. So it doesn't mean this can continue forever, but it does mean that we see nothing but bullish activity here, obviously, since we broke out in December. Okay, and we got above the cloud here. The Nasdaq Composite, I have posted this chart a couple of times on Stock Twits. Okay, note this trend line that goes back to 1991, again in 2002, and up through this area here. This is obviously a long range chart, but this wedge that developed here, the lows in 2001 and again in 2011, we continue to move higher. If we break above this, that could be very interesting. We have the highs obviously that we put in 2000. Okay, relative strength is moving higher. Again, looking on balanced volume, has turned back up as of January, okay, and December, moving higher. we are on a buy signal here since January. So until this continues or flattens out, it looks like business as usual. We had nice volume here. Okay, those past 3 months, January, February, March. So this looks really good. And note also that Bollinger Bands look like, right, this upper Bollinger Band, this one is actually moving away. So it could be more similar to the S&P where this continues to move higher. Moving over to the dollar, note that we had this inverted head and shoulders here. We are touching the lower Bollinger Bands. These are moving apart, which could spell a little bit of trouble for the dollar. So keep that in mind. Alright, so obviously a weaker dollar is good for the equities. So that's the dollar. And let's go back to the Russell. I wanted to take a look at this. This is the Russell daily. Note that we're a little bit weaker than the S&P, but we are holding the 20 period. Okay. RSI is above 50. We have this longer term fibs that I was looking at, but if we extend this trend line out, we can see that we've held this. The lows in October, again in November, in March, and now we're holding this level. We had this little hammer here, and we are moving a little bit higher. Okay, splitting hairs here, but the 200 period, the white, is moving higher. Right, this is the 300 period, and we've got the 20 period, which we held last week. This is the daily. Okay, stochastics is moving lower. However, price is pretty much moving sideways, so we could have some divergence there. This is DBV, the Currency Harvest Fund. Basically, you want to see this moving higher, which we did for a good part of January and February. Okay, we had this little channel that's developing, moving lower. We held the 50 period here. Okay, you have your shorter term period average here, the 8. The 10 is pretty much the same, and the 20 period above it. So we want to get above this trend line and above the 20 and resume our move higher. Note RSI is starting to turn back up. Stochastics is in the oversold area. MACD could turn, so we want to watch for that. And on balance volume is higher. Okay, it's moving sideways, but that's okay. So we want to watch this. A move higher is good for equities. Also note this area here, vacuum, above this level. So this should be a support shelf here. Okay, just as it was resistance down here. Okay, all of this pricing, notice how we move sideways. All of this resistance here to price, we kept moving sideways. Now that we're above it, we can use this as support. Okay, we have our 50 period, we have the 200 period down below. I don't think we're going to get that low, but we could see another move down. We could look at this from an Ichimoku version, which you can see is touching the top of the Kumo. We can expect this to either come down and test this again or move higher off of this Kumo. No Tikken-sen right here above price. Okay. Now with ZNGA, there's not a whole lot of price action here, but this is a bullish pattern with Ichimoku. Note that Chiku right here is moving back above price. It's currently touching Tikken-sen. We bounced off the Kumo. We have this channel of recent price action, and we had this hammer on Friday. We also had a test of the 50% level, very close to it, on Wednesday, and we moved higher off of Kumo on Thursday. So we had some increased volume here. So this is looking good for this upper channel line, and if we can break above that with Chiku moving higher, we could see higher prices. Okay, it's a risky stock. I only have a small position in the April 13s and 14s. I sold all of my shares on Friday that I had from this bounce area on Wednesday. XLF, you can see XLF is actually more bullish of some of these charts. Okay, Kumo is pointing higher. We got price above Tikken-sen. We got a hammer on Friday. This is probably something I'll be looking at. Probably JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, GS, Bank of America, some of the smaller banks, Ozark, regional finance, and so forth. We're looking really good. Tick and stand held price. We could probably move higher tomorrow if financials as a group do well. Okay, so anyway, this is because of Vinny's pretty long video. I'm going to cut this short. These are the things I'm looking for. Remember to keep an eye on the S&P, where we have some patterns playing out. Okay, this upper trend line, this inside upper trend line here, this trend line that goes back to 2009, and the highs back here, or excuse me, the 127 extension off of this high right here that we put in March, end of February, March. Okay, we moved above that. We continue to move higher. I could see where we could test the 127 extension. Okay, up here at 1460. The one thing I was noting on the spiders was the fact that stochastics was moving lower. We had this high here and this lower high. Okay, but we had a higher high in price. Okay, this lower high right here and a higher high. There is some divergence there with this higher high. So keep that in mind when you're trading this week. Remember to use your stops, and we'll talk to you later.